Since their Super Bowl run in the early 2000s, the era of Raider dominance has been over. The path of their franchise over the past 20 years can only be described as misstep after misstep. What with drafting Jamarcus Russell #1 overall, the Terrell Pryor experiment, the Carson Palmer experiment, and everything since the mid-2010s. This is a team that had both Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack and did next to nothing with them. Derek Carr made them an interesting team in 2016 with an MVP caliber season, but once he got injured, they were given a fate that rivals being buried alive, losing a playoff game to Brock fucking Osweiler. The following season, the team fired their head coach Jack Del Rio and were looking for a new head coach and a new stadium. Let me pause for a moment to tell you about the team owner, the man, the myth, the bowl cut, Mark Davis. He's known to be quite the cheapskate, to the point where Mr. Krabs would consider it excessive. He had one of the lowest net worths of any NFL owner at the time, so spending-wise isn't something you can really knock him for. The problem lies in the fact that none of his spending was wise. When the team officially confirmed the purchase of land in Las Vegas, Davis had to secure financing from Bank of America, which pressed his wallet even more. So I guess now that he had the future of his franchise laid out, he should spend wisely now, especially when looking for a new head coach. Rather than going for the bright new face of the future, Davis decides he wants a retread. He brings back Jon Gruden and it goes swimmingly. If you consider an egotistical dictator who trades away the generational talents on the team and ruins the culture to be swimmingly. Keep in mind, this was all while giving him a 10-year, $100 million contract. In fact, the hire went so well that GM Reggie McKenzie, the guy responsible for bringing the Raiders back to relevance in the mid-2010s, was promptly fired. His replacement? A fucking ESPN draft analyst in the form of Mike Mayock, who ended up sucking as well. Outside of the Antonio Brown situation, the 2019 Raiders were a lifeless and mediocre team that had one thing on their mind: the move to Las Vegas the next year. It didn't help that in 2019 they also drafted notorious bums in Clelin Ferrell and Jonathan Abram, but hey, the next year in 2020 was actually good for them. For about 9 games. Beating the Chiefs was the crowning achievement, and then they fell to shreds and finished 8-8 on the year. Then in 2021, real shit happened. Jon Gruden was forced to resign for being a complete piece of shit. Henry Ruggs was cut because he was a complete scumbag. Damon Arnett was cut because he's a fucking idiot. It looked like a rough year was in store for Las Vegas. Then they actually made things happen. They made the goddamn playoffs and kept competitive with the eventual AFC champions for a full game. There was no reason to doubt they'd be back in 2022. Of course, it's the Raiders, and they fuck it up. They decided to try and rip off the Patriots, hiring one of Belichick's underlings to be their GM and hiring Josh McDaniels to be the new head coach. Ask the Broncos how having McDaniels as a head coach went for them. Also, the Lions did the same exact stunt with trying to copy the Patriots for about 3 years. There's a reason that Matt Patricia was fired. But it's okay, they traded for Davante Adams. It's the equivalent of putting a band-aid onto a severed limb, but hey, it gives Derek Carr his old college weapon. Don't bother addressing that porous defense or a real coach. You have Davante Adams. Now you can overhype yourselves in your faux competitive division as the main opponent to the Chiefs. Instead, your highlights were so good it's hard to decide which one was the best. Wasting Davante Adams' damn good season? Pissing off Derek Carr to the point where you benched him for Jarrett Stidham? Being beaten in a last-second comeback by the goddamn Cardinals who had a worse coach than you? Being treated like a joke by the Chiefs in Week 18? Or being the only team to lose to Jeff Saturday as coach of the Colts? All of this leads to a depressing 6-11 season. Everybody knew by mid-season that the main issue was McDaniels, and even the team realized it. The best part though is that they couldn't fire him because his severance was too expensive. Ladies and gentlemen, your Las Vegas Raiders. This offseason saw Derek Carr and Darren Waller leave, with Josh Jacobs being franchise tagged, so he has to suffer on this team for another year. Him and Max Crosby are going to get gray hairs from this organization's incompetence. But the Raiders realized they needed a quarterback, so they give Jimmy Garoppolo the big money contract he desired and are hoping he can be more than a pretty boy Kirk Cousins. It's my firm belief that if it wasn't for their shit-ass coaching situation, the Raiders might have actually been a dangerous team last year. Unfortunately, with Tweedledum and Tweedle fucking dipshit at the helm, this team will remain at the wayside of their division, watching the Chargers and Chiefs play meaningful games while they play the Broncos in the Tank Bowl. Since the Raiders are in Vegas, they should take a hint from the Dunes and just completely blow it up. I don't mean another rebuild, I mean just delete your franchise and piss off. It's a damn shame that Al Davis's vision was just turned into another faded cash-in on the strip, and they're not even a good act. They're just kind of there. I'll leave you with this. The only time the Raiders will be relevant this season is when we laugh at them again for overhyping themselves and then finishing at the bottom of the division. The Chiefs just won a Super Bowl. The Chargers, while not the best, are actually competitive. The Broncos just got a new coach to fix things up, and you can't even hire a new coach because of how broke you are. Honestly, Bank of America taking this team away from Mark Davis would be the best thing for the organization in a long time.
Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.